Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you're doing well, and today we're going to be doing my March wrap up. So last month I read a total of 9 books and I DNF'd 2, so it was a bit of a mixed month for me. So as you guys know, March was the Roll of Reads readathon hosted by the lovely Mel over at Book Free named Mel. So thank you so much to Mel for hosting this readathon. Unfortunately, I didn't read all the books I wanted to read last month, but some of them were pretty average, so I found I got into a bit of a slump, but you've got to let yourself be in it sometimes, that's all I'm saying. But yes, so without further ado, I'll get into the books I read in the month of March. Alright, so before I get into the books I did read, I want to talk about the ones I DNF'd. So, the first one I DNF'd was my second chance pick, and that was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I tried to read this, listen to it on audio, didn't like it. Same thing again, DNF'd at 50%. Even the narrator couldn't solve it for me. So, I know so many people love this series, but for me it was just so boring. Even the audio couldn't save it. So, I'm not going to talk too much more about that. But yeah, I tried giving it a second chance, but unfortunately it didn't pan out. And the second one I DNF'd, which I was quite surprised I had to, but at the end of the day I didn't see myself picking it up again. And unfortunately that was Dora, Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. So this was Mel's pick for both the 12 suggestions for 2022 and a suggestion for the Roll of Reads. And it was so disappointing because this started off so great. I was invested from page 1, but it just got boring. I only got about halfway and I just was not feeling this book. I think the pacing felt a bit too off for me. So, you know, one minute you'd have shit happen, then it'd dive again. Then it was this roller coaster of emotions. And I'm just like, can we please just move on a bit more? So, unfortunately, I am going to have to say I probably won't pick this up again. I know a lot of people love this series as well, but unfortunately, it just didn't hit the mark for me. Okay, so the first book I did read in the month of March was Made in Scotland by Billy Conley. So this was I think it was a prompt for a set in another country. I can't really remember, but so this was basically Billy's story of his earlier life, etc. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I just wish the audiobook had been narrated by him because it would have been so much better. I would have preferred hearing about it from his perspective rather than have someone else tell it. That's just a pet peeve I had, but overall I did really enjoy this. It's interesting to find out about his life and how he grew up. So yeah, it was a 4 star, but sadly just didn't quite hit that 5 stars. Probably would have been better if he narrated it. Alright, so the next 2 I read were graphic novels, and that was Life is Strange Volume 6 and Life is Strange Coming Home. So this was the continuation of the Life is Strange video game. If you saw my last month's wrap up, you'll know what I'm talking about, but if you don't know what that is, Life is Strange is a game that was released back in 2013, and this is the continuation after that. So if you haven't played the game, don't read it because it will be spoilers. But these 2 were quite quick reads. I absolutely enjoyed them, 5 stars each. Can't really say too much about them without spoilers, but both 5-star reads. Alrighty, so the next book I picked up in the month of March was Lady Helen and the Dark Days Club by Alison Goodman. So this was the Nostalgic Vibes prompt. So this was a reread for me. So in this one we follow Lady Helen, who is a lady in high society and is expected to marry pretty much. But she soon finds out that there's these mythological creatures that essentially possess other people, and she becomes a part of the Dark Days Club, which is this group of people essentially assigned to kill these creatures. So this was really, really good. I think I gave this, what did I give it? Okay, so I gave this 4 stars. Really, really enjoyed it. Again, second read. I definitely want to pick up the next 2 books, but if if I get to them in April, hopefully I will, but I do need to get there because these are on my shelf to shop in 12 months time books, so I do have to read these series, otherwise I probably will have to unhaul them. So the next one I want to talk about is Riven by Bron Ely. So this was the sequel to Relic. So in the first book, Relic, we follow a young girl called Kaylin who is essentially assigned to be the bearer of this relic, which essentially is the source of the king's power. So this book I could only give 3.5 stars. It definitely suffered middle book syndrome for me. The pacing again fell off, and just certain elements didn't feel as important as they should have. So essentially the plot of this one is to try and find out more about the relic and essentially what it's doing to Kaylin's psyche and that, and you do get to see the effects of that, but I kind of wish it felt like the need to find a solution could have been not hyped up, what's the word I'm looking for, could have been emphasised a lot more. It definitely needed to be put a bit higher on the list, but I'm not sure keen's the right word to pick up the third book. Whether that's just because I'm in a mood where I don't really want to pick it up because the second book was a lot more disappointing than I thought. I will give the third book a chance, but I wouldn't be surprised if I did DNF it, but hopefully that's not the case. Next book I want to talk about, I don't want to spend too long talking about it because this book was probably the worst book I read last month, and that was Pumpkin by Julie Murphy. Now, where do I start with this? I have never wanted to strangle a main character as much as this one. So, in this one we follow Waylon, who is a teenager in Texas with his twin sister Clementine, and both him and Clementine are gay, and essentially the plot is Waylon wants to be a drag queen and essentially move to another state to fulfill those dreams, but one day he finds out that his sister has other plans, because this plan to move essentially was a plan they came up with together, and they were going to move across the country together to pursue their dreams. But he essentially finds out that his sister is planning to go elsewhere the day he gets dumped from memory, and essentially, where is my reading journal? Oh, I said, try and find what I wrote, because I was just too mad to. I think I hate read this book more than anything. So basically I said he was one of the most selfish characters I've ever read about. So basically when he finds out that his twin sister has made other plans, he is constantly throwing that decision back in her face. He makes her feel guilty about it all the time, and honestly by the end I didn't really care about him. He is so self-absorbed, so selfish. Like, I get that he's a teenager, but the way he carried on was just so annoying. I just wanted to reach into the page and just shake him and like, guess what, sweetie? Your sister is going to have her own life to live. It's not all about you. Okay? Just, like, honestly, I'd rather this book had been about the sister, because I care more about her than I did him. And, yeah. Another thing I had with this book was the drag element, so I felt that it could have been explored a lot more than it was. So, you know, they make a big emphasis on him wanting to be a drag queen, and you do see the drag characters from the previous books in this, but it's not really explored. It becomes more about him arguing with his sister, him hating this other guy that he's, you know, he says he hates, but we all know where this is going. It's going to turn into love. It just, like I said, I cared more about the sister than I did him. So, I could only give this 2.5 stars. Probably the worst book out of all three. I hated it. I don't want to talk about it ever again. Alright, so after that disaster that was Pumpkin, the next book I read, hopefully was, well, not hopefully, thankfully it was a lot better, and that was Outlander Book 3, Voyager by Galadon. So, I'm surprised how quickly I read this. I think I read it in about 2.5 days, and normally that it takes me probably about a week to read them. I ended up Did I have a physical copy? Yeah, I had the physical copy, and I think I breezed through it, like I said, in 2.5 days. Definitely my favourite by far, 4 out of 5 stars. Probably dabbed a little bit. Probably dropped a little bit sometimes in the pacing, but other than that, as I said, I blew through this in 2.5 days. This is probably my favourite out of the books I've read in that series so far, because I've only given the other two 3.5, so they're okay, but it took me a lot longer to get through those books than it did book 3. So hopefully that streak continues for book 4 this month. Alright, so the second last book I want to talk about was the last 2-week book club pick for the month, and that was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. So this was a reread for me again. I find I didn't like this as much as I did the first time. I don't know whether it's because I knew what happened. I could mostly remember what happened, and whether it sort of just didn't have that as much intrigue for me, but I still really enjoyed it. I think I read it in about 2 days, so it's that was a testament to my reading essentially. But yes, I did enjoy this. I did enjoy this a little less than I did the first time, but still overall an enjoyable read, and hopefully I can get to the sequel some point later this month, because I do need to read those books for my Shelter Struck series, but we shall see. The one that I finally finished, which was another book I read very quickly. No, actually, this is probably the quickest I've ever read a book this month, and that was Hidden Depths by Anne Cleeves. So this was book 3 in the Voyager series. I rated this 4 stars, quite enjoyed it. There were a couple of points where the plot slowed down a bit, but obviously being a crime book and having a couple of characters you do follow, you've got to make time to spend time. You've got to spend time with these characters, essentially. But yeah, so that was probably the main gripe I had with it. Like I said, I pretty much read it within a day, so it was good. I liked it. Probably not my favourite out of the books I've read of hers so far, but it was still a quite enjoyable read, so I did enjoy that, and I ended up using it for the main character over 30 prompts, even though I did use Outlander for that, but it was all fine. Okay guys, so that was my wrap up for the month of March. Again, thank you so much to Mel for hosting this amazing readathon. While I didn't read all the books on my TBR, I'm still quite impressed with the books I managed to read, so yes, I'm very, very excited to see what next month brings, especially being Magical Readathon, Stand By Me Long, and is it Realmathon? Realmathon. So that is where I will leave it for today. If you've got this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so already, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Bye!